Good morning. Welcome to Talkline on the MetroNews Radio Network.
Do not attempt to change the station. You are surrounded.
We interrupt this program to bring you an emergency news bulletin. Repeat, this is an emergency bulletin. Keep your radio turned on.
Holy smoke.
From the studios of the West Virginia Radio Corporation and the MetroNews Radio Network, the voice of West Virginia, comes the most powerful radio show in West Virginia. This is MetroNews Talkline with Hobby Kercheval. Check set lineup link. Activated Telos telephone. Switch network control from Charleston to Morgantown. Stand by. Q Hobby. You're on.
Good morning. Welcome to Talkline on MetroNews in and around the great state of West Virginia. Hobby Kercheval with you. J.R. Falls, our producer, and Deborah Martinelli with the video stream. You can watch us at wvmetronews.com. Phone number 1-800-765-8255. Email talkline@wvmetronews.com. Tweet me at Hoppy Kercheval. Text me 304-TALK-304. Day off today in the Don Blankenship trial, but let's find out where things are in that trial. Prosecution continues to present its case against Don Blankenship, and still testimony from Chris Blanchard, who operated UBB for Mass. He's been on the stand, 5, 6, 7, 8 days maybe. Jeff Jenkins has been covering the trial along with Shauna Johnson. Harvey Payton has been serving as their legal analyst. They both join us here this morning from Charleston. Jeff, let's start with you. What did they get into with Blanchard on Friday?
Oh, Blanchard actually finished, Hoppy, on Friday, the redirect testimony and finished up with Steve Ruby, the assistant U.S. prosecutor, who's the lead attorney on the case for the U.S. government in the case against Don Blankenship. And so he finished by going through a lot more citations that were written in the couple of years prior to the explosion at UBB back in 2010, and he went over some of those and some direct questioning to him, and he answered those questions, and then Ruby was done. In fact, Ruby ended it, and there were a couple of interesting things there on Friday that Ruby, when talking about the Aracoma disaster back in 2006, when 2 miners died at a Massey mine there in Logan County in a mine fire, Ruby mentioned the word death. And then the defense quickly stood up, objected to that, and Judge Berger then instructed the jury to disregard that question. And then Ruby just asked it in a different way and used incident instead of death. Mm-hmm. And then his last question to Blanchard was he was talking about a citation that had been written at UBB. This is obviously before the explosion, about why miners did not, they were cited for some miners not having their ID tags on them, which is a rule. You have to have an ID number and an ID tag on you. And he asked Blanchard, Ruby did, why that would be important. And Blanchard said, in case something happens to them and they need to be identified. And then Ruby rested his case, or didn't rest his case, but he said no further questions for Blanchard, kind of, obviously inferring to the deaths of miners.
Sure. And yeah. Harvey Payton, was that, in your opinion, was that a significant moment for the prosecution?
Well, yeah, it was uncomfortable for the jury. The meaning of the question, the purport of the question, was clear. I mean, one of the lines of questioning by defense counsel was to imply that many, if not all, but some violations cited by MSHA are what they call silly or trivial. And the lead into this line of questioning by Mr. Ruby was this violation? It was for an underground laborer who didn't have an indelible name tag on his belt while working underground. Was this silly or trivial? And no. And could you tell the jury why these are needed? And then the answer was, well, if there's a circumstance where we have to identify the miner. Well, the meaning's pretty clear. It's a good way to finish. It highlighted, probably the unreasonable nature of a lot of questioning, saying that trying to classify these violations as silly or trivial. They all have a purpose.
Yeah, that is significant because the defense really tried hard to say, well, there's these citations, but a lot of them are silly or trivial, and every mine gets them. But that's a strong play by Steve Ruby, the assistant prosecutor here, Harvey, to use that what might be considered a minor violation to emphasize the significance of what happened at UBB.
Yeah, I mean, the unspoken word was there did happen to be a circumstance at the end of all this production emphasis in which name tags were needed. Right. Because there was an explosive event that did involve coal dust, and it did, given the nature of the recovery and the period of time involved, how they identified these men. That's the first thing the rescuers look for, is the tags on their belt.
Right. Harvey Payton's with us and Jeff Jenkins. And Jeff, how come that they're not having testimony today, and where do things stand with Blanchard?
I think Judge Berger said that she had a couple of hearings to do, so they're on other things, so they're not having that today. Where things stand on Blanchard, it was kind of an interesting moment, Hop, when he had finished on Friday afternoon. Late Friday afternoon, that would have been he had been on the stand for parts of 7 days, almost 7 complete days of testimony. He had been on the stand, and when Ruby said no further questions, Bill Taylor got up, that's the lead defense attorney for Blankenship, and said, "Can we have a bench conference?" And so she said yes, and so the attorneys go up. And Blanchard, without being excused, I just think he's ready to go. He just gets up and leaves. He just gets up and walks out. And and then he quickly came back in, Ben Bailey, his attorney.
So the issue on this is whether or not he's going to continue testimony, whether it's going to be another redirect?
Well, that was because Taylor, and then she dismissed the jury, and then Taylor said, Ruby introduced more than 40 new documents. He listed about 7 points as to why new information was gone into on redirect, so he should have a chance and opportunity to recross.
Harvey, should he?
Well, on a limited basis, I suspect my thought would be the judge will let him, on a very limited basis, examine this witness on some new documents. It's not going to be as far-ranging or as narrative in form as his original 4.5 days of cross-examination. But you're on a really sharp legal divide here, because you've got a Sixth Amendment right under the U.S. Constitution to confront and cross-examine your accusers. The court has a lot of discretion in how you do that cross-examination, but it's a basic fundamental right. And so
do you think the judge will rule and allow some additional cross-examination?
That would be my thought. I mean, because there were some new documents.
Okay, all right. Let me ask you, Harvey, about something else. You said that the government on Thursday and Friday did a good job of bringing the general discussion back to the specifics. Every plan to implement the hazard elimination program, the safety program at Massey, called for more manpower, and Blankenship wrote notes saying essentially, why do you need more people? Why don't you people do your jobs? So what in your opinion, was the significance of that from the prosecution standpoint?
Well, I think the significance is that if the United States government stopped today, there's sufficient evidence in the record. If the conversations and business transactions between corporate executives is indeed a criminal conspiracy, if it is, then there's plenty of evidence with which Mr. Blankenship could be convicted. There's no dispute in the record, really. We haven't heard from Mr. Blankenship, and I don't suspect we will, but both from miners who said in a survey they didn't have enough personnel to work safely, and from Mr. Blanchard, who said he requested additional personnel, and that these violations, many of which were serious and substantial, were preventable with additional personnel. Does that establish a conspiracy where consistently they have supposedly this safety program, and then consistently Blanchard says we need more people to do these things, and Blankenship says you're not going to get more people? Does that in and of itself constitute a conspiracy to not comply with safety standards? Well, that's the legal question. I mean, this is.
Do you think it does?
The law with regard to these client conspiracies is pretty all-encompassing, but this is not a circumstance in which this particular statute has ever been applied. It's generally applied to tax fraud, or securities fraud, where people combine together to represent things like tax shelters when they sort of know that they're really tax evasive. This is obviously, these people had an arrangement and an understanding that production was to continue. I mean, Mr. Blanchard was the president of the mining division. They continued to produce after he had asked for manpower to produce without violation.
Right. So Jeff Jenkins. So when in the layout of the defense case, as they did in the opening arguments, or opening statements. I always forget which it is.
Statements.
Opening statements. Okay,
yes.
Opening statements. And then in the cross-examination, the argument is that Massey had these safety procedures and a lot of these violations were minor, and that Blanchard believed they were, operating safer. There was no conspiracy with Don Blankenship. But when they come back And in the redirect, and the prosecution shows, well, you may say that Massey doesn't condone any violations, yet there were violations all over the place, and there was pressure from Blankenship to produce and don't worry about additional manpower. I mean, isn't there that's where we are, right?
Yeah, that's where we are. And one thing Ruby did that he used a comparison of Consolidation Coal, and which is another. And they don't have the mines anymore, but they did at that time, and long-time operator mines, and compared their mine citation numbers to Massey. So he's just trying to bring out, how, and the comparison was pretty largely, Massey with a lot more citations than Consolidation Coal, which obviously is mining a lot of coal, particularly in north central West Virginia.
Harvey, go ahead, Harvey.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say, don't overlook the fact that there are other charges besides conspiracy. If one of the charges is that this press release was a false statement to influence investors, well, it's been proven. That statement was false. The statement in that press release that Massey does not condone any violations, every witness has testified they did condone violations, meaning their own safety program was to reduce their violations from hundreds to half of hundreds, not to zero. There was never a program in place to try and reduce their violations to zero. They simply said they didn't think they could economically do it. So that statement in that press release is false.
So is that enough to convict Blankenship on lying or making false statements to Massey investors and Security and Exchange Commission?
Well, again, that's a legal issue. When they say made a statement or caused a statement to be made, does that include just Mr. Blankenship, everybody who edited it, everybody who approved it? He's charged with it. If releasing that statement by a company of which you're the CEO is included within the statute, that's a significant legal question. It'll probably be decided in this case if he's convicted on appeal, perhaps even by the United States Supreme Court, because it is the outside of the envelope.
All right, let me ask you both, because the impression was, I'm talking about general impressions by you guys, was that during a long cross-examination by the defense of Chris Blanchard, who worked for Blankenship and ran the UBB mine, that the defense was gaining some ground. The defense was getting momentum here in the defense of Don Blankenship. Harvey, you believe prosecution has regained its footing?
I think the defense overplayed their hand on Wednesday when they tried to get too much out of the witness, and the prosecution regained their footing by jerking this thing right back to reality at sea level over Thursday and Friday, and finished the week ahead of the game.
Finish the week ahead of the game. Jeff Jenkins, what was your opinion? Again, separate your objectivity as reporter to just a general impression of the flow of this trial.
I would have to give an edge right now to the prosecution, Hoppy, but it's going to be key. They have a couple of more witnesses to kind of capstone this case against Blankenship, and we expect one of those will be the Ross memo, and Mr. Ross will be testifying. And so that's where they may end, and then we'll just see what the defense does. But, we talk about how these things go back and forth, but I would say that the prosecution would probably have the edge right now.
Which, frankly, you would expect, because it's still the prosecution's presenting its case. The only thing the defense has been able to do is cross-examine. They did a good job for a lot of the Blanchard, but the defense still gets to put on a case. So we need to keep that in mind. Harvey Payton, who's serving as our legal advisor, along with his son Tom Payton, and Jeff Jenkins, who's covering the trial along with Shauna Johnson. More posted at wvmetronews.com. Harvey and Jeff, thank you very much.
Okay,
thank you, Hoppy.
All right,
Have a good day.
Thank you. We'll take a break and be back. Stay with us.
Hi, it's Tony Caridi with a question. What can a video do for you? Well, if you're in business or part of an organization, let me tell you what videos have done for our clients at Pikewood Creative. Our commercials have generated millions of dollars in new business. Our long-form videos have helped capital campaigns raise tens of millions of dollars. That's what a video can do for you. If you have a need, then visit us at pikewoodcreative.com. That's Pikewood Creative.
Trading in your business fleet or personal vehicle for a new one? Donate your used vehicle to Good News Mountaineer Garage and get the best tax deduction possible and the satisfaction of knowing your donation changed the life of someone in need. Good News Mountaineer Garage repairs donated vehicles and provides them to qualified West Virginia families, giving them access to employment, safe, affordable housing, healthcare, and other vital necessities, and putting them on the road to economic independence. Call 1-866-GIVE-CAR today for Good News Mountaineer Garage. 866-GIVE-CAR.
Hunger, injustice, poverty. We see it, but what can we really do? Where is the hope? The hope is in you, and Catholic Charities West Virginia can help you extend hope, grace, and mercy to the most vulnerable in our communities. They're calling all people of goodwill to serve our brothers and sisters mired in poverty, burdened with disease and injustice. Join with Catholic Charities West Virginia and change a world. Visit CatholicCharitiesWV.org because the hope is in you.
This is Talkline on MetroNews. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
When we made the Jeep Cherokee, we didn't stop at a stunning interior, or at advanced technologies, or stop at that gas station, or from going over bumps, or rocks, or through rivers. Let's just say we couldn't stop ourselves. One drive and you'll discover why the Jeep brand continues to be the best-selling SUV brand. Join us now during the Jeep Drive and Discover event.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Gosh, cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
It's a lot easier when you have it on before you get pulled over. Click it or ticket.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. The United States, by order of this administration, is set to deploy about 50 special operations forces in Syria. It would be the first time there'd be a commitment of actual ground troops, although they're not supposed to be involved in the actual action. They're supposed to serve as advisors. But there is a plan by the administration to commit 50 special operations forces in the Kurdish-controlled territories of northern Syria to fight back against ISIS. John Decker, Fox News Radio in Washington, following the story. And John, this is a significant development because we've been bombing there, but we've not committed ground forces till now.
That's right, and it's a complete 180 from what the president said back in September of 2013. Back then he said there will be no U.S. ground forces on the ground, no troops on the ground, no boots on the ground. And on Friday, he announced that indeed there will be 50 special operations forces on the ground in Syria, and that will happen within the next few weeks or few months. And the defense secretary gave an indication this past week in testimony before the Senate Armed Services Committee that if all goes well with these U.S. forces on the ground, that there may be more forces that will be sent into Syria. So this could just be the start of a ramping up of the number of U.S. forces that we'll see in Syria in the short term.
John, why has the president changed his mind here?
Well, it's happened because of the events on the ground. ISIS now controls vast swaths of land, not only in northern Iraq, but also in Syria. There's no indication that the U.S. efforts are making a discernible difference in Syria in particular. So all of those sorties that have taken place have not pushed ISIS out of the pockets that they control, and something needs to be done. And so the Pentagon has agreed to a recommendation of these 50 special operations forces. Keep in mind, these are the best of the best. These are the best that we have. But even having said that, the U.S. is going up against thousands, if not tens of thousands, of ISIS fighters inside Syria, and you just wonder whether these troops will be enough to change the tide in Syria.
And these soldiers are not supposed to be involved directly in action, in direct combat with the enemy, correct?
Well, that's what Josh Earnest said yesterday. He said, I should say Friday, he said that this is not going to be a combat mission. And, you can parse his words to some extent, and, technically he's right. It is not a combat mission, but there's no doubt that they are going into a very dangerous situation that may indeed involve combat. These troops that are going in there, these special ops troops, they are prepared to take on any type of incoming from ISIS fighters and are prepared to defend themselves and to defend the folks that they'll be partnering with on the ground in Syria if indeed they come under fire.
John Decker's with us, Fox News Radio in Washington, D.C., on the commitment of 50 special operations troops to Syria to fight back against ISIS. And John, there is buzzing on both sides on Capitol Hill. You have Democrats suggesting that this could have mission creep, and you have Republicans who are saying this won't do anything substantial. If you're going to do something significant, right?
That's right. So the Senate Armed Services Committee Chairman John McCain, his counterpart in the House, Max Thornberry, both issued statements on Friday when the president put out this announcement of these 50 special ops forces, and they say this is fine, but it's not enough. There needs to be a strategy for taking on ISIS, and what the president announced on Friday is not a strategy. And in the words of Max Thornberry, the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, he says that this may indeed be too little too late.
John Decker, Fox News Radio in Washington, D.C. John, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
All right, man. You too. So I've been in touch with Senator Manchin's office. The senator is supposed to get a defense briefing tomorrow morning, and we hope to have the senator on tomorrow or Wednesday to discuss this commitment of troops. And in fact, we'll try to get everybody from the delegation at some point over the next week to get their reaction to it, because it is a commitment of ground forces, even though they're not supposed to be directly involved in the combat. They're supposed to serve advisory and technical roles. But still, it is a change in strategy in Syria. So we'll try to get reaction. We will get reaction from our delegation over the next week on this change of strategy. A couple of tweets coming in. Matt says, Hoppy, this is that example of a violation that you guys talked about is not silly, but it has nothing to do with safety or protecting environment or protecting minors. And you hear this all the time from mine operators, is that you might get hit with all these violations, and some of them are very minor, don't have a lid on a trash can, that kind of thing, and others are serious enough to warrant even removal, like remove minors from the operation underground if it is serious enough. But the point, I think, in the Blankenship trial is what you've seen going back and forth is the defense trying to show that they had a safety program and that a lot of the violations were minor, while the prosecution's saying, well, they may have said they had a safety program, but clearly there were violations that contributed to a lack of safety at that mine. So that's what they've been going back and forth with for the most part. Okay, we're going to take a break. We'll be back. When we come back, as always, on this program, we look for better ways or ways to improve public education. That's coming up next. This is Talkline on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia. 10:30, let's get a news update. Check in with the MetroNews Radio Network and find out what's happening statewide this hour all across the great state of West Virginia.
West Virginia Metro News, I'm Shauna Johnson. Should video lottery sites in West Virginia be allowed more machines? The director of the West Virginia Amusement and Limited Video Lottery Association thinks so.
Track revenue is continuing to drop. And LVL has been extremely steady for the past 15 years.
Michael Hayes says they'll push lawmakers to add to the machine numbers during next year's regular legislative session. Coal mining deaths at Massey Energy Mines are a big part of the criminal trial of former Massey CEO Don Blankenship.
Assistant U.S. Attorney Steve Ruby mentioned the 2006 deaths of the two miners at Massey's Aracoma Coal Alma No. 1 mine in his redirect questioning of former Massey Coal Group President Chris Blanchard Friday. He did mention the word death, and that brought an immediate objection from Blankenship's attorney Bill Taylor. Federal Judge Irene Berger then instructed the jury to disregard Ruby's question. He then asked it using the word incident instead of death. Ruby finished Blanchard's redirect by asking him why miners would need their identification tags at the Upper Big Branch mine. Blanchard said in case something happened to them and they needed to be identified. 29 men died at UBB in the 2010 blast. Blankenship, the former Massey Energy boss, isn't charged with that, but he is charged with skirting mine safety laws in the months leading up to the tragedy. Today is a day off for the trial. I'm Jeff Jenkins, WVMetroNews.com.
The version of Country Roads, Glendale native Brad Paisley sang at Mountaineer Field in September, will air tonight on ABC. You're listening to Metro News for 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
A study from England shows that men spend more time each day looking at themselves than women. Well, believe that study or not, the point is we all want to look our best all the time. Well, the same holds true for businesses. We judge businesses, in fact, by their look. At Pikewood Creative, we produce videos and commercials that make businesses look their very best. And you know what? It improves their business. They get more customers and clients. If you'd like your business to look better, then check us out at pikewoodcreative.com.
Just trim the split ends, Angie. With one child on the football team and in the band, I bet your Friday nights are fun. It's bittersweet. Kevin can't go see them play. He's in so much pain, he can't get out. That's awful. I hope you all are making it. Not really. We've sold his tools and truck, and he's been denied Social Security again. I bet Sean Taylor can help. He's great with Social Security disability and SSI claims. It's what he does. Sean Taylor? I'll do that.
Sean Taylor, your Social Security lawyer. 855-969-4648.
The investigation continues in Berkeley County into a weekend accident that claimed one life. Deputies with the Berkeley County Sheriff's Department say the person killed was in a vehicle that slammed into a tree on Saturday morning. Charges are pending in connection with a fight between two people early Saturday in Morgantown that ended with one of those involved being stabbed in the hand. Cabell Midland, Bridgeport, and Magnolia again sit at the top of their respective classes in the Metro News High School Football Power Rankings. From the Metro News Anchor Desk, I'm Shauna Johnson.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank member, FDIC. As you know, we talk a lot about public education on this program. And today in West Virginia is the Education Summit in Charleston. It's sponsored by the West Virginia Education Alliance. One of the speakers is Matt Williams. Matt Williams is Vice President of National Advocacy and Partnerships for Knowledge Works, the Knowledge Works Foundation. He joins us on Metro News Talkline. Matt, welcome to West Virginia. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in. Okay, I saw a presentation that you gave, I think it was at South by Southwest, where you said if genes are not one size fits all, why should learning be? Our education system advances students based on the amount of seat time, not on their mastery of critical content, knowledge, and skills. So you want to change the entire paradigm, is that right?
Exactly. I mean, I think our education system, as you well know, was designed in the 1890s and functionally for white males. That's not what our society looks like today. And we keep tweaking it around the edges and reforming this and reforming that, when I think really fundamentally we need to transform it. And as I kind of talked about it at South by, jeans and T-shirts and clothes, they don't come in one size fits all. And so why are we keep trying to keep kids in a box? Why don't we allow them to prosper a little bit more than what we are currently?
Are there places in the country, Matt, where they have changed the paradigm significantly and it's working? And if so, how?
Yeah, so we're seeing some bright spots across the country. And by and large, it's the states and in partnership with districts that are leading that sort of change. For instance, in New Hampshire, you have 4 districts that came together with the state to say we want to do competency-based education, and which is a statewide kind of mandate in New Hampshire. But these 4 are going to lead that work and really begin to shift it to where students are progressing not based on how much time they spend in a desk in a school, but based on mastery of content and skills. And so they got a waiver from the U.S. Department of Ed to do that, and now they're expanding the 4 districts to 8 districts. And so that's what we'd really like to see across the country is more states and districts partnering to work on the expansion of these sorts of ideas, whether it be competency-based, blended online learning, use of technology,
Well, let's talk about that, because how do you do it? Because I'm still kind of locked in the old system. Okay, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, and then the kid, you're trying to push all the kids ahead, and it's hard because you got advanced kids, you got intermediate, you got kids who are struggling. So how logistically, how do you do it?
Well, it does take some logistical work. You're absolutely correct. It doesn't work. It's a little bit messy in that we all know, if you were to take my oldest child as an example, he is really bright in mathematics, but he writes at a little bit lower level. He actually makes Ernest Hemingway look really verbose with regards to his sentence structure. So he needs more help in English, in being able to write, to being able to infuse it with imagery, with metaphor, but he can speed ahead in mathematics. But the current system says, no, you can only go so fast in mathematics, and gosh, we can only provide so many supports for you in English. But what if he was able to accelerate where he needed to be, as well as get the remediation and support where he needed to be? So from a teacher perspective, which is really what you're talking about, how does a teacher do that in a classroom with all those sorts of students? One, we need to have better assessments. And by assessments, I don't mean layers of summative assessment as we have handed down from states and the federal government, as well as instituted by districts. But how do we really begin to get some rapid feedback? So I know where a student is if I'm that teacher, and I can provide a support utilizing maybe technology, or utilizing having some kids working on computers while other kids are getting a small group lesson, while other kids are maybe working with an instructional aid to get some support and remediation where they need. So you're chunking up the class versus teaching the whole big class.
Interesting. Matt Williams is with us, Vice President of National Advocacy and Partnerships for KnowledgeWorks Foundation. He's in West Virginia today for the Education Summit put together by the Education Alliance. But what do you do? And this does make sense to me, but then how do you address, for example, we have a problem in West Virginia where we have a lot of kids, I think this is a lot elsewhere too, they're not coming to school ready to learn. They have all sorts of problems at home that they bring to school. We have chronic absenteeism by some kids and truancy and all kinds of things. I mean, how does what you're talking about work for them?
Well, I mean, some of the things you mentioned, the school can only do so much. Now, the school is held accountable for many of those things, which in and of itself is an issue. What I'm also seeing is that if you're demanding, say, through a competency-based approach, that students master the content, what you're actually able to do is provide supports where all kids are mastering the content rather than just some. And you're providing the supports early on in their education to get them up to grade level. So we aren't waiting like many states do with a 3rd grade reading guarantee, where we want all kids to read by 3rd grade, which is absolutely a laudable goal and the right goal. But if we're providing the right supports in pre-kindergarten and kindergarten and 1st grade and 2nd grade, and we're getting kids up to that mastery level, then we're actually able to drive education a little bit faster.
It's interesting you mentioned those things because we actually have done, we're, of course, education reform, sometimes an oxymoron. We're constantly in the process of it. And in West Virginia, we've done some things. We're trying to have mastery of skills by 3rd grade, particularly in reading. We're stuck on the 180, which I push hard because, and I think you're probably not in favor of that, of the whole butts and seats. But, we've had a huge problem with weather where kids aren't in school, 10 to 20 days a year. And that's, theoretically, we should be able to continue learning while kids are home from school, but I'm not sure how much actually goes on. That's why I push 180 days. But your thoughts about that?
No, I actually want to focus less on the actual amount of time and whether kids are actually learning, so that time is the variable and learning is the constant. So maybe it takes one student 200 days. And we got to look at what that really looks like. Does it mean year-round school? I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe another student finishes in 180 days, but really look to drive in greater depth in the content. I think things around snow days, I think you're absolutely right. It befuddles me, and I understand in states like West Virginia and Kentucky, because of certain areas, particularly in the Appalachian areas, where you have an infrastructure issue with regards to technology, which is very real and tangible and needs to be addressed. But I'm befuddled that even with my own kids, and we shouldn't base policy on my own kids, let me be clear, we lose time with snow days in Cincinnati, Ohio, in 2015, when we really need to be looking at what are the systems where we can put online, we can support learning at home, which means a major investment in infrastructure, and infrastructure in key areas and key states that really need it more than others.
Matt, do you think these kinds of changes, because they sound more regionalized, if you will?
Mm-hmm.
So is it about the bureaucracy allowing localities to try to do things differently? Is it about a top-down mandate to do things differently? Is it grassroots? How does this happen?
Yeah, I believe it happens through states and districts partnering. And I'm going to set the federal government aside for a second, which is ultimately very difficult to do. But I don't believe top-down notions of you must innovate from on high necessarily work. I think it's about states looking at what are their regional needs. They know it best. What are their economic needs? What are their economic holes? And there were their educational holes, and building a system that supports that and supports the students in their own state. But they have to do it in partnership with the districts. That's where teaching and learning and curriculum and instruction happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so it needs to be done in partnership.
You know, I tell you, Matt, it is really tough because education, I have found, I think, is a bureaucracy on top of a bureaucracy on top of a bureaucracy, and it's very, very, very hard to change. Very hard to change. I'm not trying to say we shouldn't at all. I'm saying you know probably better than anybody how hard it is to change. But
no, you're absolutely correct. And I would also argue that we are jurisdictionally out of whack in the country, where we have the feds telling the states what to do and the states passing that on to the districts, or sometimes the feds jump to the districts and sometimes the states jump to the schools, where we don't have alignment in the system, which which creates more bureaucracy, more confusion.
Right.
What's interesting is in the state of, or sorry, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, they have a program called Districts of Innovation, which allows districts to apply for flexibility to innovate. The only requirement there is that they don't apply for something they already have the freedom to do. And yet many applications were turned in that were actually for things that districts already had the right and the opportunity to do. So they weren't even aware often of what their flexibilities were.
Matt Williams, Vice President of National Advocacy for Partnerships for Knowledge Works, and he is in West Virginia today for the Education Summit sponsored by the Education Alliance. Matt, welcome to West Virginia. Hope you have some good provocative stuff to talk about today. Sounds like you do, and it's good to speak with you today. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good to talk to you. We're going to take a break. When we come back, a lot of prisoners are being released across the country and in West Virginia. Who are they? Why? And what does the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District say about it?
Thursday nights on Metro News, it's Mountain East Conference football. This Thursday, the Shepherd University Rams visit the Fairmont State University Fighting Falcons. And Metro News brings you all the action. Join Travis Jones and Rasheed Marshall for the call of the game starting at 7. Don't miss Division II football at its best as the Falcons take on the Rams. On Mountain East Conference Thursday night football from Metro News and WVMetroNews.com.
The Jeep Celebration event at Northside in Summersville is underway. Never a better selection. Over 200 Jeeps available. The 2015s are leaving quick. The 2016s coming in just as quick. This is a great opportunity for you to save big. Get a 2016 Jeep Cherokee Sport with the Sport Package and Cold Weather Group. Save over $3,000. It was $2,825, now $24,990. Here at Northside Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Truck. Visit us online at northsidewv.com. Don't delay. Buy a Jeep today.
At MVB Bank, we try to pique your interest. So listen up. With our most valuable checking with interest account, you'll earn high interest on your transactions with no monthly fees and nationwide ATM refunds when qualifications are met. With our MVB app and mobile deposit, that's just the beginning. MVB most valuable checking with interest. Now that's highly interesting. Open an account online today at mvbbanking.com or visit one of our convenient local branches. MVB, your financial life made easy. Member FDIC.
You hear a lot of talk around the legislature about a so-called right-to-work law. What's it mean? Who's behind it? It's out-of-state corporate CEOs who want more unnecessary regulations. That does nothing to create jobs. It just gets the government deeper into our private lives and business relationships. If you like the EPA, you'll love Right to Work. Tell your legislator Right to Work is wrong for West Virginia. Paid for by the working men and women of the West Virginia AFL-CIO.
You're listening to Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
It's a lot easier when you have it on before you get pulled over. Click it or ticket.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
When we made the Jeep Cherokee, we didn't stop at a stunning interior, or at advanced technologies, or stop at that gas station, or from going over bumps, or rocks, or through rivers. Let's just say we couldn't stop ourselves. One drive and you'll discover why the Jeep brand continues to be the best-selling SUV brand. Join us now during the Jeep Drive and Discover event.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. The biggest federal inmate release on record is taking place. About 6,600 inmates are being released. Another 16,500 expected to get out within the first year. More than 40,000 federal felons could be released early over the next several years, according to the U.S. Sentencing Commission. The Sentencing Commission decided a year ago to lower maximum sentences for nonviolent drug offenders and to make the changes retroactive with the inmate releases effective November 1st. Sentences were reduced for a number of offenses, but drug-related nonviolent offenders. U.S. Attorney Bill Ehlenfeld is the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of West Virginia. He joins us on Metro News Talkline. Bill, good morning. First of all, maybe you don't want to hit it from a policy standpoint, but is this a good thing?
Well, you know, they didn't ask me, Hoppy, when they began this process, but I can tell you that there were high-level hearings held before Congress. The Attorney General of the United States testified. They received over 80,000 public comments, and at the end of all of that, the Sentencing Commission made a recommendation to Congress that this be done, and Congress had the opportunity to vote to reject this suggested change, and Congress elected not to take any action, which means that it went into effect last November, and then they gave us a year to implement it, and so here we are ready to go.
What does that mean? Here we are. And you said that there are about 44 federal inmates who are going to be returning to the Northern District of West Virginia. So who are they? Not by name, but characterize them. And you say, here we go, meaning what?
Well, we've been doing a lot of work over the past year, which was one thing that I appreciated, the fact that they didn't make this effective for a period of 12 months. And so my office has had time to prepare. The United States Probation Office has had time to prepare. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has had time to prepare, because a lot of those folks are going to be deported. I think maybe as many as 25% of the 6,000 will be deported and not come back to communities in the United States. But these are, for the most part, low-level drug offenders or nonviolent drug offenders who many of whom have served significant sentences. I say low level. They're nonviolent, but some of them have served a decade in prison, or they were supposed to serve a decade in prison, and their sentence was reduced from 10 years to 8 years. And so most of them have served significant sentences. They're coming back out, and they will be placed onto supervised release either today or tomorrow.
And some of those are people who, with the mandatory sentencing laws, ended up with long sentences because of, for example, if they had possession of crack cocaine, right?
Correct. There are a large number of people that fall into that category, and so they have served long sentences, and the powers that be decided that it was time to modify those sentences, and I think it's part of the bigger picture of criminal justice reform in our country that this is a part of.
So, Bill, these folks are coming back into the community, and where do they live? Where do they get jobs? How do they keep from falling back into habits that got them there in the first place?
Well, fortunately, and I can speak most intelligently about what's happening in the Northern District of West Virginia. I can't speak to the whole country, but
sure.
A large number of the people coming out to Northern West Virginia have already been in some form of a transition, either in a halfway house or they've been on home confinement. There are some, maybe about 25%, that are coming directly from prison. And so how do they avoid committing new crimes down the road? Well, part of that is what the United States Probation Office has put together. They have a plan for each and every one of these individuals to encourage employment, to encourage treatment if they need it. If they were addicted going in, they might still need treatment on the way out, and also strict supervision. So the more risk assessment was done for everyone. So that the riskier somebody is, the stricter the supervision will be for that person. We have some terrific probation officers. These guys go into the homes unannounced. They do random drug testing. So there are a lot of measures in place to make sure that these individuals don't reoffend. But if they do, that's where my office comes in, and we will litigate the petitions to revoke their supervised release before judges in the district.
Bill Ehlenfeld's with us, U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of West Virginia, talking about, I think it's a story we haven't heard a ton about. There's been some news about it, but that the U.S. Sentencing Commission deciding, actually it was a decision a year ago, but there was a year to kind of put things in place to release literally thousands of felons who are primarily nonviolent drug offenders, particularly things like crack cocaine and powder cocaine, to a lesser degree meth and those kinds of things. So, Bill, do you think this, then is this representative, as you alluded to earlier, is this the new trend as we can't lock everybody up for these kind of offenses?
I think it is, and there's bipartisan support for this. So I think we will continue to see and talk about these kinds of reforms. There is a lot of talk right now on Capitol Hill, and I hear a little bit about it because the Department of Justice is involved in those discussions to come up with a more comprehensive sentencing reform package. I don't know that everyone's going to be crazy about it, but I think that's going to happen. I think we're going to see a modification to mandatory minimum sentences in the federal system.
Is that, so, and philosophically, do you think that's a good idea?
Again, they're not asking me for my opinion.
Yeah, but I'm asking you. I value your opinion, and you're kind of a law and order guy. I want to know, unless it just you'd lose your job if you said your opinion.
I don't want to lose my job, so what I'll say is that it's coming, and you might have a mandatory minimum sentence of 15 years for a particular offense. That might get knocked down to 10 years. I do think that we do need to have reform. What we've been doing hasn't been working. We incarcerate more people in America than any other country. So I do think we have to take more steps. I think we have to be focused on reentry as well. What do we do when they come out? And you asked that question. We have to be more focused on that, making sure that they get gainful employment, they stay off of drugs, and they get housing. And we have services available for them. If you don't help them within, I think that the studies say about the first 6 weeks, if they don't have a job, if they don't land on their feet, odds are they're going to go back to a life of crime.
Yeah.
But this release today, I just want to stress,
yeah,
this is very manageable. there's 70,000 BOP inmates released every year. We have just 44 coming back to northern West Virginia, and they're spread out across 32 counties. So this is very manageable. It's nothing for the public to be concerned about. Now, there are more to come, as you mentioned, but this is not something that we can't easily absorb, and we are absorbing it, and I don't think there are going to be problems for anyone.
Well, I'll say it for you. I mean, I think that these mandatory sentences really sort of lock down judges and prosecutors and the courts into things that take away a lot of local leeway on this. And a lot of these things are put in place by politicians who want to say they're out being tough on crime. So there, I said it. You don't have to say it. All right, Bill Eaglenfeld, the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of West Virginia. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Hoppy.
All right, man. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Imagine a scale, and you're trying to balance it. Too much on one side, and it sinks, just like our state's economy. When jobs are centered on one or two industries, the balance is off. Our economy sinks, and good-paying jobs disappear. West Virginia needs a variety of industries, including fossil fuels, small business, and high-tech jobs to bring balance. The High Technology Foundation works to bring those high-tech jobs here. Ask your legislator if they're helping the High Technology Foundation bring balance to our economy. From the West Virginia High Technology Foundation.
This Saturday, the West Virginia Mountaineers return home for a matchup with the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Join the Metro News Game Day crew starting at 9 a.m. for the Jeep Golden Blue Countdown. Then at 10, it's the Sports Brunch, followed by Game Line at high noon. Post-game coverage begins at 3 with the Golden Blue Wrap-Up presented by the West Virginia Oil and Natural Gas Association, followed by the Point After. Don't miss game day coverage at its best here on Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.
This is Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
When we made the Jeep Cherokee, we didn't stop at a stunning interior, or at advanced technologies, or stop at that gas station, or from going over bumps, or rocks, or through rivers. Let's just say we couldn't stop ourselves. One drive and you'll discover why the Jeep brand continues to be the best-selling SUV brand. Join us now during the Jeep Drive and Discover event.
It's a lot easier when you have it on before you get pulled over. Click it or ticket.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
Hunters and trappers, get ready for electronic game check. Visit WVHunt.com, your local DNR office, or a licensed agent to get your DNR ID number now. Then you're ready to check that buck, doe, or other game. You can do it by phone, computer, or stop by a licensed agent. For more information, visit WVHunt.com, WVHunt.com. Be back in 6 minutes. More on the Fayette County school situation. This is Talkline on Metro News, the voice of West Virginia. Welcome back. Hour number 2 of Talkline on the Metro News Radio Network in and around the great state. Hoppy Kercheval with you. J.R. Falls, our producer. Deborah Martinelli, the video stream producer. You can watch us at wvmetronews.com. Phone number 1-800-765-8255. Email me, talkline at wvmetronews.com. Tweet at Hoppy Kercheval. Text me 304-TALK-304. We've been following the Fayette County story. You know the story there with the schools. They're in bad shape. County's divided. They haven't been able to agree on a bond issue. Some citizens say that they don't want any higher taxes. Others say that why approve more money for schools when we don't know where the other money is gone. The state's moved in. The state's been in charge of the school system for the last, 4 or 5 years. Most recently, some of the local leaders and the state Board of Education came up with a plan to ask the State School Building Authority, the SBA, for $39 million over 3 years, while Fayette County would come up with about another $17 million to make significant changes in the school system there. They were going to consolidate 4 high schools, Fayetteville, Oak Hill, Midland Trail, and Meadow Bridge, and 2 other schools. Oak Hill High School would have become the new site for Collins Middle School. There'd be a consolidated high school at Oak Hill area, so there's this big plan. But it went to the School Building Authority. SBA rejected it and decided not to take it up. But now there's a legal fight going on. But the SBA has decided it will at least vote to, I want to make sure I have this right. The SBA is going to decide whether to reconsider its decision to not take it up. I think I have that right. David Sneed is the executive director of the School Building Authority, joins us on Metro News Talkline. David, good morning. I have some questions, but anything you want to add to that to clarify or any point you want to make from the SBA before I delve into this?
Good morning, Hoppy. No, I think you summarized it very well there.
Okay. So this is technically, and I don't want to get bogged down in the technical stuff, but this will be a vote by SBA whether or not to reconsider, and then if they do or don't, what happens from there?
Yeah, I think the authority was kind of hitting a little cold on the amendment during our September meeting there, and they needed some more information. As a result of that, they've decided to not approve the amendment. They have agreed to, with some additional information that we've provided, and of course we're having our superintendent interviews next week as well. So they have decided to at least put it back on the table for reconsideration of the amendment, which would just qualify for their project for funding for our December funding meeting. And the superintendent of schools, Mr. Terry George, will be down on Tuesday morning if the amendment is approved, and he'll have the opportunity to speak to the authority and to present their project and answer questions that he may have.
So if it gets put back on the list, then Fayette County makes its pitch like every other county. Then it's back up to the SBA to decide whether or not to allocate the money, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And the last time it failed 6-3 and to be taken up, and not asking you to say what your concerns were because you wouldn't be a voting member, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So it failed 6-3, and the concerns were what? That it's a long bus ride from the kids of Meadow Bridge to the new high school, that you'd be allocating money without a bond approval, those kinds of things?
Yeah, I think during the meeting, several of the authority members brought up several concerns, and the bus rides, the travel time for students was certainly one of those concerns. The amount of money that Fayette County was asking for, we annually we receive about $150-200 million worth of requests. This year's that same number is still true. We only have about $50 million, and it was just a kind of a shock that Fayette County was basically asking for 2/3 of that money for one county. So we have to, our job is to really help Fayette County, and we are going to do that somehow. Some way we are going to do that. So that and among other things that the authority brought up during the meeting there that just caused them to say, well, let's wait a minute. Maybe is this the best plan? Is this a plan that the majority of the people in Fayette County actually support? And if it is, and it's something we've had a history here of funding projects that aren't popular. They get bogged down. They end up in lawsuits. There's delays, and our money's tied up. And then other counties could use that money. We certainly have other counties that actually need that money just as much as Fayette County.
So David Sneed is with us, executive director of the State School Building Authority. That is an important note that the SBA has historically, and maybe you know the numbers, provided money to Fayette County, but it hasn't been used, or it's come back because of what?
Yeah, it's kind of unfair to say that the SBA doesn't support Fayette County. Actually, since 1990, we've provided about $78-79 million or supported that much for Fayette County, of which 2/3 of that, or about $52 million, I think, has been returned, or bond issues failed that would have allowed the county to take advantage of those funds from the SBA. So it's a little unfair to say that we haven't supported Fayette County, and certainly we have.
Mm-hmm. So, and typically the SBA will maybe not typically, maybe always. The SBA says you pass a bond issue, and if it then make your pitch to the SBA, and they'll match. Then they'll come in with some money, right? So it's a partnership, correct?
Yeah, we like those partnerships. It's not required, and counties, a lot of counties, there have been counties that have received funding from the SBA, not to this magnitude, but they have received funding from the SBA without a bond. There's counties that are coming to the authority this time with local cash, but it certainly stretches our money. Not a requirement that they have money, but it certainly does give us the ability to fund more projects when the county boards of education and the people in the county support what's going on by a bond issue or levy funds or something like that.
Now, Fayette County their plan does include $17 million in local money over 3 years. The $39 million request from the SBA for 3 years and $17 million in local money.
Yes, it does. It does now. The initial amendment didn't address that amount of money. That actually came up during our meeting in September, and since the project has been turned in now, it does have the $17 million figure in there, and it's certainly something that the authority will look at. But yeah, I think that's a consideration, and that initially the request was about $50 million, and now it's down to $39 million, I think. So obviously that helps.
David Sneed is with us, Executive Director of the School Building Authority, on the situation in Fayette County. I think the first answer you gave, you said that, and you provide an interesting historical perspective, that the School Building Authority has allocated money previously to Fayette County, and a lot of it's been returned. But you said that something effective, we are going to help Fayette County. Fayette County is going to be helped. What do you mean by that?
Well, our job here at the School Building Authority is to do just that. That's what we do. We spent really the entire summer, our staff did, working with county boards of education on creating projects and developing their projects and finance plans, and those projects are before us now as well. We haven't had the opportunity, and we will take that opportunity to work with Fayette County. If we're asked to come in and to work with them, we certainly will. And something has to be done in Fayette County, and we intend to help Fayette County in the future if we can. That's what we do for a living here.
Yeah, and David, you said too what a lot of people said, we have to do something in Fayette County. But sometimes that's where the consensus stops. I mean, everybody on all sides will say we have to do something in Fayette County. Political leaders have been there, said the same thing. But Fayette County has a real problem deciding what those things are. It becomes parochial, as you know, because of sometimes involving the Meadow Bridge angle, where the kids in Meadow Bridge, they want to keep their own high school, or they want to stay in their own county. Then you have folks who live there who don't want to pay any more higher taxes, and then you have constant disagreement over what schools are going to be closed, what schools are going to be open, what schools are going to be fixed. And you guys have seen this in a lot of counties, maybe not to the extent that Fayette County is having it, but these are the fights that we have.
We do in the state, and most counties, and I keep using the 25-year time frame because that's how long the School Building Authority's been in existence. And we started off trying to help counties, I would say, right-size their school systems for the number of students, the number of facilities, the number of teachers they can afford, the amount of money they need to upkeep their buildings. And that sort of was a theme, I guess, initially with the School Building Authority. That's what we've always done. Fayette County is the only county really that hasn't really had the opportunity and support in the county to sit down and really address those things that all these other counties have actually already addressed, and they've kind of moved on, and it's a shame. I do feel though that there's a certain momentum and energy in Fayette County. It may be at this moment they're all against us, but at least they're being united in a single mindset that maybe we can sit down now and we can really look at these issues realistically and say, what is the ultimate solution? And that's exactly what we would like to do, and we're prepared to do that.
Well, here's a bulletin that you're never going to get a solution when there's limited resources, and you're talking about consolidating schools that everybody's happy with. Just not going to happen. But you have to think about, and which I know you guys do, you have to think about the best interests of the children. And when you say this, you invite the pitchfork crowd, but it might make a lot of sense. It's been suggested to me that the Meadow Bridge high school kids go to Greenbrier West and just not worry about trying to bus them 89 minutes one way.
Well, their facility there is very lacking, to say the least, and something's got to happen there for those students. We'd like to support a plan that at least the majority of people in Fayette County could support, and that may be a very good option. It's not that far away from Greenbrier West. That's a very good option. And there's some kids in Meadow Bridge that maybe could attend Summers County schools. There, even students that already live in Summers County. So we're trying to create a thorough and efficient education here in our state, and that might certainly be an option that we all should look at, and just step back and not worry so much about buildings, and let's think about where these kids where's the best place for the students to go to get the best education that we can provide and Fayette County can provide.
David Snead, Executive Director of the State School Building Authority. David, thank you for coming on. I do appreciate your insights and giving additional information on this story, and I appreciate your time.
You're welcome, Hoppy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We're just going to keep pounding the Fayette County story until they figure something out. That's all. When we come back, he's decided to run for re-election.
Constantly checking your business checking? Switching to an MVB Bank Foundation business checking account makes your cash management easier with no minimum balance, no monthly service fees, up to 500 free transactions per month, and access to MVB where you work. Visit MVBbanking.com to see how MVB Bank helps you build a foundation for your business. MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC. Transactions are checks paid and deposited and ACH debits. $50 minimum deposit to open, 20 cents for each transaction over 500.
Thursday nights on Metro News, it's Mountain East Conference football. This Thursday, the Shepherd University Rams visit the Fairmont State University Fighting Falcons. And Metro News brings you all the action. Join Travis Jones and Rasheed Marshall for the call of the game starting at 7. Don't miss Division II football at its best as the Falcons take on the Rams. On Mountain East Conference Thursday night football from Metro News and WVMetroNews.com.
Hello, I'm your neighbor.
Your sister.
Your son.
Your granddaughter.
I was broken, hungry,
helpless and hopeless.
Catholic Charities reached out to me in hope, faith, and love.
They were there in my time of need, and they'll be there for you.
No matter how old or young you are, Catholic Charities of West Virginia offers hope, help, and love for all ages. Visit CatholicCharitiesWV.org and find your hope today. Catholic Charities West Virginia is an equal opportunity employer and service provider.
You're listening to Talkline on Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
It's a lot easier when you have it on before you get pulled over. Click it or ticket.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
When we made the Jeep Cherokee, we didn't stop at a stunning interior, or at advanced technologies, or stop at that gas station, or from going over bumps, or rocks, or through rivers. Let's just say we couldn't stop ourselves. One drive and you'll discover why the Jeep brand continues to be the best-selling SUV brand. Join us now during the Jeep Drive and Discover event.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. In the West Virginia State Senate, it is very, very close. The Republicans have an 18-16 advantage, and that was only after, in the last election, that one member of the Senate who was a Democrat, Senator Hall, Daniel Hall, flipped and became a Republican. So 18-16, so it's a very narrow margin. Republicans want to maintain and expand, and Democrats want to get back the majority. That means every race is absolutely critical. There was some question as to whether or not Senator Corey Palumbo, a Democrat from Kanawha County who served 2 terms in the 17th, would run for re-election. I think even he was wavering a little bit. He's made his decision. He joins us on MetroNews Talkline. Senator, good morning. Thanks for joining us. What are you going to do?
Hey, Hoppy, thanks for having me. I am going to run again. I have made that decision. It was a little bit of a struggle, but I'm going to give it another go.
Why?
Well, I enjoy the process. I think we've done a lot of good things over the last several years, and I think we have many challenges still in front of us, and I'd like to help be part of the solution for those. The challenges are different than they were when I started, but they're just as real.
Yeah, and I want to talk about some of those in a minute. Why were you wavering?
Well, I mean, I've been in the Senate 2 terms, as you said, and been in the House 3 terms before that, so it'll be a total of 14 years once I finish out this term. And, that's a long time to be, devoted to something like this. And I was just wrestling with whether the demands I have with my full-time job and my family and my kids and their activities, whether, I could still devote the time necessary to represent the folks in Kanawha County.
Corey, clearly the Democratic Party is struggling to get back the Senate and the House and get back some of the momentum it's lost over the last couple of elections. How much pressure did you feel as a Democrat to run to try to maintain that seat for the party?
Oh, there was definitely a little bit of pressure, but it certainly wasn't overwhelming. I think a lot of people in the Democrat Party wanted to see me run again, and I got a lot of nice encouragement, but I wouldn't necessarily call it pressure.
Okay. A Republican is in this race, Chris Stansbury, who's currently a member of the House of Delegates. He is running for the Republican nomination in the 17th. If he wins and you figure that's the way it'll play out, you'll face him in the general election. Do you know Chris, and how viable do you consider that race, that challenge?
I do know Chris. I met Chris, before he ran for the House, and I don't know him really, really well, but he seems like a nice, likable guy, and I've got no, criticisms of him. I suspect that he would be a very good opponent. I think he's a very viable candidate for that race.
All right, but you're up for a fight.
I am, yeah. You gotta fight the fight, and I think it'll be the most difficult one I've had. I mean, obviously, last time I was unopposed, so that makes that real easy. But I think it'll be difficult. But I'm going to have to get after it, and raise a lot of money and campaign hard.
Senator Corey Palumbo is with us, Democrat from the 17th in Kanawha County. He's decided to run for re-election in the 17th to a 3rd term. So, you talked about something that you said the issues have changed somewhat. What are you most interested in?
Well, I mean, Hoppy, if you look at the issues that we had, 10 to 20 years ago, I mean, we had the highest workers' comp premiums in the country. Our taxes were higher than most of our surrounding states. We had the judicial hellhole label. We had prison overcrowding. We had underfunded pensions. And essentially all those issues have been tackled over the last 10 to 15 years. And I think they've been done, through Democrat leadership for the most part, because we were in charge for the most time, but also with Republican help when we were in charge, and with Republicans this year. I think all those issues one by one have been taken care of. Now we're facing a tremendous drug problem. We need to improve our educational outcomes. I mean, those are sort of workforce development issues. We've got, crumbling roads and infrastructure. We need to expand broadband. We've got problems with not having enough flat developable land. I mean, these challenges that we face now are really probably more difficult than the ones that we've already tackled.
Mm-hmm. You supported the legal reforms, didn't you?
I did. I think I can't remember. There were a lot of them, Hoppy. I think I supported most, if not all of them. I think some of them started off, in my view, going too far, but in the final product, they were moderate reforms that I supported.
Mm-hmm. How about hashtag FTDR? I mean, fixing the roads. What should we do there?
Well, I mean, I don't think anyone has a great solution to that. I mean, it requires money to fix the roads, and we've got a huge budget shortfall, and it's just it's going to be a challenge to come up with the amount of money it takes to fix the roads we have.
Would you be willing to support an increase in, well, you probably did when there was an increase passed in the DMV fees, which the governor vetoed. Would you support any of the following: increase in DMV fees, an increase in the gasoline tax, taking money from the general fund, a big bond issue, anything like that to put more money toward the roads?
Well, I've already supported an increase in the DMV fees, and I would support doing that again because they haven't been increased in a long time. The gas tax were already, higher than most of the surrounding states in that. I don't know that we have much of a capacity to increase that anymore, so I'd be a little bit less enthusiastic to increase the gas tax. Taking money from the general fund, yeah, if it's there, if we have it available, but it seems to me like it's going to be hard to come up with general revenue funds to go to roads.
Yeah, I mean, how tight is it going to be next year? I think it's going to be extremely tight.
Well, it sounds like it. I don't serve on the Finance Committee, so I'm not as well equipped to respond to that as others might, but it seems to me like, we've got a huge hole already, and it's only projected to get deeper.
And Corey Palumbo, Democrat, Kanawha County, 17th District, will run for re-election for a third term. Senator, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. Good luck to you.
Thank you, Hoppy. I appreciate you having me.
All right, take care. So Palumbo's in, so that makes for another really fascinating state Senate race in West Virginia. I got to sit down and go back through the list because some things have changed just over the last couple months. But my last recollection was we'll have, because there would be, half the Senate, so 17 seats are up in 2016. And many of those are going to be competitive races. Historically, you've had a lot of, it's not going to be a race or somebody's unopposed. But with the surge by the Republican Party over the last couple of elections, 2016, it looks like it's going to be very, very competitive in, well, I gotta look at how many. Probably 12, 13, 10, 11, 12, 13 of those Senate races. So, and at stake is the majority in the state Senate. All right, we got a break. We'll be back. And when we come back, do you know they have an election in Ohio tomorrow? And there are municipal elections and county elections. But what everybody's talking about in Ohio, our neighbors to the west, is the decision whether or not to legalize marijuana. And you got some weird bedfellows over there with this debate. And we're going to talk about that next. So stay with us. There's more to come. This is Talkline on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia. 11:30. Let's get a news update. Check in with the MetroNews Radio Network and find out what's happening statewide this hour all across the great state of West Virginia.
West Virginia Metro News, I'm Shauna Johnson. The director of the State Public Employees Insurance Agency says he knows the higher cost PEIA is proposing to fill a $120 million benefits hole will hit home for many state workers and retirees.
Legitimate concerns that people are truly going to be unable to afford certain things they're going to need. Even though we're raising the copay for primary care to $20. And, for some low-income people working for the state and toiling away, that $20 may keep them from going to the doctor. And as drug costs come up, it may keep people from taking the drugs they need.
The first in a series of public hearings on the benefit reductions will be held tonight at Morgantown's Ramada Inn. Future hearings will be held in Martinsburg, Wheeling, Charleston, Beckley, and Huntington. Elsewhere, the president and CEO of the Education Alliance says West Virginia can learn some lessons from Kentucky when it comes to taking education into homes online.
Kentucky, that's one of the reasons we're excited about having them at our summit. They have very similar demographics to us. They have similar particular weather factors, and they're doing this. So they also have, obviously, children at home that don't have internet access. So we're excited to hear about how they've overcome some of those barriers.
Dr. Amelia Quartz is helping lead today's Education Alliance Summit in the capital city. Appalachian heritage is being celebrated during this week's Mountaineer Week at West Virginia University. You're listening to Metro News for 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Identity theft, the fraudulent possession and use of a person's private identifying information, typically for financial gain. You never think identity theft will impact you until it does. But you can help protect yourself. The West Virginia Attorney General's office suggests you check your credit score often, create strong passwords, and change them frequently. Monitor your bank accounts and credit card statements, shred personal documents, install security software on your computer and phone, and avoid public Wi-Fi connections. For more information on identity theft, visit wvago.gov.
This Saturday, the West Virginia Mountaineers return home for a matchup with the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Join the Metro News Game Day crew starting at 9 a.m. for the Jeep Golden Blue Countdown. Then at 10, it's the Sports Brunch, followed by Game Line at high noon. Post-game coverage begins at 3 with the Golden Blue Wrap-Up presented by the West Virginia Oil and Natural Gas Association, followed by the Point After. Don't miss game day coverage at its best here on Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.
Residents in Bridgeport get their chance tonight to weigh in on the proposed creation of a 1% sales tax in that city. Bridgeport Council member L.J. Maxey.
We do have to be wise in spending your money, my money, the taxpayers' money, and that's what we're going to intend to find out what people want.
If approved, the money from the sales tax would go into a planned new indoor recreation complex in Bridgeport. From the Metro News Anchor Desk, I'm Shauna Johnson.
Talkline presented by MVB Bank, your most valuable bank, member FDIC. Hunters and trappers, get ready for electronic game check. Visit wvhunt.com, your local DNR office, or a licensed agent to get your DNR ID number. Then you're ready to check the buck, the doe, other game. You can do it by phone, by computer, or stop by a licensed agent. For more information, visit wvhunt.com, wvhunt.com. So tomorrow, Ohio votes whether or not to legalize marijuana. Mostly this legalization thing, I think 4 states in Washington, D.C. have legalized. But other than D.C., it's been a Western thing. But Ohio is voting tomorrow whether to legalize marijuana. Mark News, longtime news director of WMNI in Columbus, Ohio, formerly newsman in the greater Parkersburg Metroplex. Mark, good morning. Tell me this. Who is Ian James, and why does he care whether pot's legalized or not?
Well, Ian James is the head of the group called Responsible Ohio, and that's the group that put Issue 3 on the ballot. Basically, you have 10 very rich investors who decided that they would like to have marijuana legal in Ohio, and also Issue 3 would give them the exclusive rights to be the only growers and sellers of marijuana. So basically, it's a pot monopoly that the Responsible Ohio would like to have in the state, and according to the latest polls, it's too close to call.
Mark, that's a weird part of this story, because normally the whole legalized pot movement has been, and excuse the bad pun, kind of a grassroots movement. But this time it's top down, it's corporate, it's big investors. And this amendment, as you said, says, or this ballot initiative says, legalize pot. And by the way, the 10 of us are going to control the market.
That's exactly what it's all about, and that's why there are so many groups that have come out against it. In fact, the General Assembly here, the legislature, they put a competing amendment on the ballot, Issue 2, which basically says you cannot create a monopoly through the state constitution. So if it passes and 3 also passes the marijuana amendment, then it's going to be up to the courts.
Yeah, that's all. It's all really weird. I mean, it's not like a straight up or down vote to me. It's got all these complications to it. What have people been talking about over there on this?
Well, that's the whole point. It's very difficult for Ohioans to have a real conversation about marijuana, because there are people of goodwill who say, I'm not really for marijuana, but I think we ought to have medical use. Or there are people who say the war against drugs hasn't really worked out very well and we should decriminalize marijuana. But you really can't have that conversation with this issue because it's so convoluted.
Yeah, and Mark News is with us from WMNI in Columbus, Ohio. And Mark, also, there have been some strange bedfellows here because some folks, as I read, who support the legalization of marijuana have actually joined with those who don't want to or want to reject this because they don't like the whole corporate thing, right?
Oh, absolutely. There are lots of groups who are proponents of marijuana use and proponents of legalization who are against it. In fact, there's a group, and again with the pun, a grassroots group that's trying to get an amendment on for 2016 that would legalize the use of marijuana, and they're campaigning against it too.
Yeah. The investment groups have spent something like, what, $25 million? They spent a bunch of money, right?
Oh, yeah, $25 million. They have outspent the opponents 10-1.
Right. And Oscar Robertson is an investor. Nick Lachey, people like that. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. Frosty Rucker, the former player with the Bengals, is involved in it. There's a lot of people involved, basically millionaires who'd like to be billionaires through the marijuana trade and to give themselves exclusive rights through the Ohio Constitution to sell it.
And what's been the political response? You say there's the legislature passed. So there's the other amendment, the other ballot issue is on there as well that says you can't have a monopoly. So would that negate if two? Explain it again.
Yes, if basically it says you cannot create a monopoly through the state constitution, and since it was put on by the General Assembly, it would take effect before Issue 3, the marijuana amendment. So basically the General Assembly set it up to try to negate the marijuana amendment if it passes, but of course the marijuana proponents say that it would not negate it. They're claiming it is not a monopoly because these 10 investors are quote-unquote separate entities. But basically it's going to end up to be a constitutional crisis.
Wow, and you could have, you got all these different scenarios. One could pass, the other could fail. They could both fail, they could both pass.
Right.
It's just... Can't you guys do anything simple over there? What's the deal?
Absolutely not. Boy, democracy's ugly, isn't it?
It is. So, and you don't know. The polls say it's just too close to call.
It is too close to call. The latest polls, one came out from the University of Akron. The other came out from Bowling Green State University. They both show it too close to call. There is some bad news for Responsible Ohio, the marijuana people. They have really pushed to get the young people to come out and vote. And in Ohio, you can vote 30 days before Election Day. You can even walk into an election center and vote, or you can get an absentee ballot through the mail. And so far, here, at least here in the Columbus area, 51% of the people who have voted absentee are 65 or older. Only 7% are between the ages of 18 and 30. So the young people aren't coming out in big numbers, at least in the early voting, and that's bad news for the marijuana proponents who have spent a lot of money on the campuses trying to get people out to vote.
And you would think those 65 and older would be against it unless they were all at Woodstock. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
could be.
All right, Mark News, WMNI. Tell you what, Mark, we'll check back with you probably Wednesday morning, see what happened Tuesday and Tuesday night. Okay, buddy?
Hey, sounds great, Hoppy. It's great to talk to you.
Then to you again. Mark News, WMNI, Columbus, Ohio. It's a very convoluted vote tomorrow in Ohio on legalization of marijuana. Again, it's got that weird twist. Yes, it's about legalization, but it also says that if you legalize it, it'll be a monopoly. These 10 investors are going to control the market, which doesn't seem... And the guys who are doing it make no apology for it. They said, yeah, we're trying to make money on it, and there's nothing wrong with making money, but it's just sort of peculiar the way it's unfolded. When we come back, you're likely to see some people growing beards this month. Growing beards. No Shave November. Tony Caridi heading up the No Shave November effort with West Virginia Radio. Why and what's it all about? That's next.
Stupid pipe! Oh, no.
Honey, are you all right?
There's a time and a place to do things yourself, but there are some things that should be left to the professionals. When it comes to building your dream home, remodeling the bathroom, rewiring the kitchen, or fixing the furnace, you need the best help and the best materials you can get. That's when you need to go to the Home Builders Association of West Virginia. Their members are skilled professionals and retailers specializing in your home. It's your home. Don't settle for anything less than the best.
Contact the Home Builders Association of West Virginia online at hbawv.org for a list of licensed professionals and suppliers in your area. Go to hbawv.org today. This message brought to you by our marketing partners, Lowe's of North Central West Virginia, Brick Street, 84 Lumber, Federal Home Loan Bank of Pittsburgh, ProBuild, SJ Neathog, Valcon, Wincor, and West Virginia Housing Development Fund. The Home Builders Association of West Virginia. Go to hbawv.org today.
This Saturday, the West Virginia Mountaineers return home for a matchup with the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Join the MetroNews Game Day crew starting at 9 a.m. for the Jeep Golden Blue Countdown. Then at 10, it's the Sports Brunch, followed by Game Line at high noon. Post-game coverage begins at 3 with the Golden Blue Wrap-Up presented by the West Virginia Oil and Natural Gas Association, followed by the Point After. Don't miss game day coverage at its best here on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia.
You hear a lot of talk around the legislature about a so-called right-to-work law. What's it mean? Who's behind it? It's out-of-state corporate CEOs who want more unnecessary regulations. That does nothing to create jobs. It just gets the government deeper into our private lives and business relationships. If you like the EPA, you'll love right-to-work. Tell your legislator, right to work is wrong for West Virginia. Paid for by the working men and women of the West Virginia AFL-CIO.
This is Talkline on MetroNews. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
When we made the Jeep Cherokee, we didn't stop at a stunning interior, or at advanced technologies, or stop at that gas station, or from going over bumps, or rocks, or through rivers. Let's just say we couldn't stop ourselves. One drive and you'll discover why the Jeep brand continues to be the best-selling SUV brand. Join us now during the Jeep Drive and Discover event.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
It's a lot easier when you have it on before you get pulled over. Click it or ticket.
Breaking rocks in a hot sun. I fought for law and a law won. I fought for law and a
Talkline on MetroNews, welcome back. Here in West Virginia, there are 2 great jackpot games you can play from the West Virginia Lottery. Powerball has drawings on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Mega Millions has drawings on Tuesdays and Fridays. The Powerball jackpot is $142 million. The Mega Millions jackpot, $144 million. Please play responsibly. A tweet, Hoppy, the Ohio pot thing is a Democrat get out the vote program. That's all it is. Well, I thought it was just about these 10 guys, these 10 investors who see an economic opportunity in growing and selling marijuana, and they're just going right at it. They're not, it's interesting because it's not the marijuana can actually, have a variety of benefits or decriminalize it or stop putting people in jail, and it's not any worse than alcohol, so let's decriminalize, let's legalize it, let people use it or have the medicinal benefits on and on. I mean, this is corporate. It's corporate pot. It's what it is. Which is that's one of the reasons it's a fascinating story. So why did Tony Caridi put down his razor sometime Saturday and decide that he wasn't going to shave for the rest of November? Good morning, Tony. How are you?
I'm well, Hoppy. Good morning to you. First off, congratulations on your enshrinement into the Broadcasters Hall of Fame.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We had a nice evening. Tom Ressler and the group at the Broadcasting Hall of Fame in Huntington did a really nice job. It was old-timey radio, Tony, broadcast for an hour live and had people reading commercials, and it was really neat, so I enjoyed it. It was very nice. Thank you.
That's great.
Appreciate it. So what is No Shave November?
No Shave November is something, Hoppy, that began several years ago, and people were doing it for awareness for prostate cancer. And it kind of was the October is for breast cancer, and November became prostate cancer. But various organizations have started using No Shave November, not shaving, for various causes. And so I had an idea several weeks back that I'd like to do it because I did go No Shave November last year, but I did it just not to shave, just to see what it would look like. This year I said, all right, I'm not going to do it again. I'm not going to shave, but I want to organize something here where we can raise funds and raise awareness for a specific cause. And I've selected the West Virginia Alzheimer's Association because it's just a horrible disease that impacts so many people, not only the person that's suffering from the disease, but really their caregivers. And so got together with the folks at the West Virginia Alzheimer's Association, and they were just incredibly open to the idea and gracious. We've got 12 different people from West Virginia Radio Corporation who have vowed not to shave in the month of November, and we've created a website with the help of the Alzheimer's folks that can raise money and raise awareness about this disease. First off, the disease, Hoppy, is impacting over 40,000 West Virginians right now that are suffering from it, and by 2050, we'll have over 80,000 West Virginians that are diagnosed with Alzheimer's. But more so, Hop, perhaps, is that right now we've got over 100,000 caregivers in West Virginia that are supporting and trying to help these people. Many of them are their spouse. It's a disease that impacts 66% women, 33% men, so 2/3 of all victims are women. And those that are providing care, Hoppy, to those folks, their chance of passing away is almost 40% higher.
Because it's just a huge strain, such a strain on them, too.
It crushes people. It just crushes people providing this care. And so there's a lot of things that can be done. As you well know, here in Morgantown alone, the Blanchette Rockefeller Center is working on world-class, solving of this problem. But if we can raise money and we can raise awareness to this, there's tons of things. There's medications. There's things that are, they're making this. This is the only disease, Hoppy, of the top 10 causes of death, okay? This is of all the top 10 causes of death that people die from, this is the only disease that continues to grow.
Because we're living so long.
We're living longer, and this is the only one that's growing. So we need to jump on it. So we've created a website with the Alzheimer's folks, and it's real simple to remember, noshavewv.com, noshavewv.com. If you go there, you can click. It's really super simple no matter what device you're working on, a computer, a tablet, or your phone, and you can make a donation. You can go 10, 25, whatever you feel comfortable with making. We're just going to take all that money, and all that money goes to the West Virginia Alzheimer's Association. They'll use it for education. They'll use it in ways that they see fit, so it all stays in West Virginia. And we're going to grow our beards for the month, and we'll update people, and we're just kind of trying to get awareness and say, hey, go help these people out. Whether you can give 10, 15, 20, or if someone can give a whole lot more than that, our arms are open, and we'll be willing to take it for them.
Tony Caridi is with us, and, of course, play-by-play announcer for the Mountaineers, and with MetroNews Sports, and he has started working with the Alzheimer's Association with No Shave November. So do you click on the individuals, or it's just a general contribution? You're not picking somebody that you're supporting?
Yeah, so you can donate, and you can do it specifically, but it's not a contest to see who can make more money. It's not a contest to see who can grow a bigger beard. We're just trying to say, hey, 12 of us guys are doing this, and if you can help us out in some way, that would be awesome.
So we got some folks with West Virginia Radio. You talked me into it, which is because I can't grow a beard. So
here's the thing: of all the people that have signed up, there's 2 people that we really want to see how this works. You
Yeah.
And Greg Hunter from Sportsline. Greg has never. He said, "I've never tried to grow a beard in my life." Greg shaves every single day, so he's doing it. We've got Brad Howe from Sportsline, Randy Jerko, Steve Bishop down in Charleston, Johnny Vincent down in Charleston, Kevin Conley in Morgantown, Matt Kelly, KKW in Morgantown. So we got really a lot of guys that are doing it. You know what, Hoppy? The thing I've noticed is that when I asked people to do it, it's amazing, but they almost all of them said, I've had a family member, and they said, I'm in, I'm totally in. So that's what we're trying to do, is just say, hey, people, let's dedicate a little money here if we can to these folks, and that's what we're trying to do.
It's a worthy cause, and I appreciate all the effort you're putting into it, Tony. And it's a terrible disease, and as you say, you talk to people, and almost everybody has. Oh yeah, it's a family member, a cousin, a relative, a friend. It's just, and it's just brutal. It's just brutal. Now, are you going to update the picture? How often are you going to update the pictures?
Every week. So what we're going to do, we got a wanted poster sign, bearded thing, and so every week we'll put a two-shot next to what you looked like in the beginning and what you look like after 1 week, 2 weeks. It's kind of like a science project. when you grow the bacteria in the petri dish, that's what we're going to do. Every week we'll update, and so we'll see after a month. And, you can update the thing, and so that's what we're doing.
But people know you. It's unfair. I mean, you have such a heavy beard. You're going to look, in a month, you're going to look like James Harden from the Rockets.
No, I don't. What surprised me last year is it got so gray, but I guess that's what I call old people gray beards. But, yeah, it gets gray. And actually, I cheated. I haven't shaved since Thursday night. It's not a contest. It's not a contest.
But hey, wait. Okay, you say it's not, but you get us together. You know it's a contest. Okay, you know that you know how we are. So it's gonna be a throwdown.
No, it's gonna be a wonderful thing to get awareness for Alzheimer's. That's all we're doing, man.
Okay, go to what's the website again?
NoShaveWV.com.
NoShaveWV.com. NoShaveWV.com. All right, man. It's underway. We'll update. We'll have you on like every, like once a week and see how things are going. Meantime, quick Mountaineer question. October was just brutal. What are do you have optimism moving forward?
I do. And I'm not saying that just to say that. I really, truly do, Hoppy. The whole thing that will determine what we do here in these next 5 games is going to be mental, because I think physically what we have left on this schedule, these are all teams that we absolutely can compete and beat. I really, truly believe that, especially after this past weekend, seeing what has happened with Texas Tech's defense, with Iowa State beating Texas. So mentally, can this team just kind of like get itself back online balance-wise and say, okay, we just played computer ranking-wise the 1, 2, 3 team in the country on the road, according to the ESPN computer rankings. Can we get ourselves right? There's a lot of games here, Hoppy, that West Virginia can win. In fact, in all likelihood, Hoppy, they could be favored in all 5 of these games. They're a touchdown favorite this week.
Well, in fairness, the 4 teams that West Virginia, and everybody knew that it was the toughest schedule on record, but now at the end of October, look back and say the 4 teams West Virginia has lost to in that schedule have lost 1 game.
They're 30-1. That's correct.
I mean, that's incredible. I was blown away. I thought Texas was getting it. I was blown away that Texas got shut out by Iowa State. I did not see that coming. But
mind-boggling. And Texas got the ball over on the Iowa State side of the field once the entire night, which is that one's difficult to understand. Which gives me confidence that, hey, you got those 2 teams here this week, Texas Tech and then Texas. Okay, so that's 5. You go to Kansas, that's 6. Come home, Thanksgiving weekend, Iowa State, bring it, that's 7. Go to Kansas State, you can get 8 wins, Hoppy. I mean, that's not a stretch of the imagination to say you can get 8 wins.
Yeah. Tony Caridi, MetroNews Sports, and the No Shave November is NoShaveWV.com. Thanks, Tony. We'll have fun with that. All right, man. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Have you ever wondered just who are the Friends of Coal? Well, there are 50,000 West Virginia families who support the state's coal industry, and they look a lot like you. Honest, hardworking, good neighbors who want a future for themselves and their state. They're coal miners, housewives, school teachers, mechanics, doctors, college professors, pizza delivery guys, your friends. The Friends of Coal know and understand the importance of the coal industry to our state's economy. They know about the 60,000 jobs the coal industry creates in our state. They know about the $25 billion the industry pumps into our economy. And they know that without coal, our state would face an economic catastrophe. Come to think of it, that sounds like most West Virginians. Let Congress know you are a proud West Virginian and you are a friend of coal.
Coal is West Virginia.
True to its motto, wild and wonderful, West Virginia is the third most forested state in the country for landmass and has 7 million more forested acres now than 100 years ago. The mountain state is abundantly blessed with valuable renewable forest resources, which naturally regenerate for future generations. Forestry is the basis for over 5,000 separate wood and paper products, creating millions of dollars in state revenue from business income and property taxes. A message from the West Virginia Forestry Association, WVFA.org.
When you drive impaired in West Virginia, you break the law and endanger the lives of others. Law enforcement across the state is committed to keeping impaired drivers off the road. If you drive impaired, be prepared to pay the price. There are consequences. It's simple, West Virginia. Drive sober or get pulled over.
You're listening to Talkline on MetroNews. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
It's a lot easier when you have it on before you get pulled over. Click it or ticket.
When we made the Jeep Cherokee, we didn't stop at a stunning interior, or at advanced technologies, or stop at that gas station, or from going over bumps, or rocks, or through rivers. Let's just say we couldn't stop ourselves. One drive and you'll discover why the Jeep brand continues to be the best-selling SUV brand. Join us now during the Jeep Drive and Discover event.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
At MVB Bank, we have one simple objective: to give you the very best of everything you could possibly want and need in a bank. That's it. We believe most people just want a really great bank with top-notch products like checking with cash back, nationwide ATM fee refunds, great CD and car loan rates, and more. Together with our awesome team and the convenience of state-of-the-art technology they can count on. It's no extra fluff, just good, honest banking. We're MVB Bank, your most valuable bank. Member FDIC.
Cancel.
You would think because I'm losing the hair on the top of my head, I'd be able to grow a decent beard. I don't see that happening. NoShaveWV.com. Also, my picture up there now looks like a mugshot. We got to run. Keep up with the news at WVMetroNews.com. See you tomorrow. This has been Talkline on MetroNews, the voice of West Virginia.